Man, I love it, love it. And why I introduce you every time is because I just love introducing a
Oh
coach
my goodness.
from Rahab or from that's funny
Yeah, I'm
from
from everywhere. Like
from
I'm associated some way, somehow with every organization in Greater Akron. I don't know
every
how, but I know
everybody's.
somebody, and I'm just, hey man, I just want to be a part of the team, man. I'm a team guy, so
I
whatever
love
role
it.
I can play, allow me to play that role.
I love it. All right, my friends. So one, if somebody's just jumping on here, who are you? Is this Rahab Ministries? Or do you guys ever get calls about a Rahab or something said differently? Could you introduce yourself and then what your role is at Rahab?
Sure, absolutely. So, hey guys, thanks for having me on. My name's Kelly Carey, and I know that can be confusing with the two first names. So, I'm Kelly Carey, and I am the Vice President of Programming at ReHab Ministries. And ReHab has been active in our community for the last 18 years, serving survivors of sex trafficking. So, our mission is to provide hope in Christ to those who are individuals who are being trafficked and sold for sex, as well as those who are vulnerable to sex trafficking.
Hmm.
Wow. That was a lot there. Okay, so working with Rahab then I would love just to know, like, if I'm completely ignorant to, because I've got to be around Rahab thankfully. What does that mean that you're giving this hope of Christ to these people in sex trafficking?
Hey, hold on one
Yeah.
second, Ben. Before we get too deep into this conversation, okay? You like overlooked the probably
Sure.
one of the most important things that she said, right? And it's something that we have in common. We have two first names. A lot of people call me Boyd, and a lot of people think that my last name is Kemp. And I have to say, no, my
Really?
first name is Kemp. My last name is Boyd. So that's something that me and Kelly share, is that we had either two first names or two last names kind of together. So that was something that cannot be overlooked that we
I'm
have
so
in common.
sorry.
So my
I
sister,
totally
thank
overlooked
you so
it. Totally
much.
overlooked.
I can relate,
I've
and I like
never,
that
I've
you
never.
can too. I get called Carrie all the time.
Yes.
So do you guys just like say yes now, or like you're like, okay,
Yeah,
like Mr. Kemp,
I
how you
respond to
doing?
either.
Yes.
Equal
Yes.
playing
You just
field.
say, yep,
I don't
yeah, no
have that.
problem.
I don't have that problem with Ben Beaver. Most people they pretty much can tell Beaver's probably not my first name.
Yeah.
That's fantastic though. So, anyways, I go too deep, too fast, Kelly. But I would love to know what does that mean? You're helping people in sex trafficking.
Yeah, sure. So I think what it looks like, I can talk about our services, so I'm over our programming, but I feel like I want to go back and talk about kind of how ReHab started. And that was with Becky Moreland 18 years ago when she just started really ministering to people, talking to people, women who were on the streets or in the strip clubs that were at that time, before really sex trafficking was a well-known term, were women coming out of prostitution that were being prostituted in our area. And really that has grown into now ReHab has this continuum of care of services. So what that looks like, bringing hope in a lot of different areas. We have outreach still on the streets and in strip clubs in our area, in the greater Akron area in Northeast Ohio. And then we also have our community-based programming, and that's our drop-in center off Matthew Street that a lot of people know about, as well as our minor mentoring program to serve individuals who are minors, ages 12 to 18, that are survivors of sex trafficking or at risk, vulnerable to be trafficked, as well as all the way to safe housing. So we have 2 safe houses as well. So when we talk about providing hope, we're talking about providing hope from all the way on the ground level, just interacting with someone, providing hope in a way of sharing a smile, sharing food, hygiene items, resources, giving them a place to stay in a community to fellowship with at our drop-in center, letting them see that they are loved, valued, worthy, all the way to, at the end, we offer that safe housing component. And not everybody enters safe housing and wants that type of healing and restorative healing, or needs that. But we offer something at each step of the way. But I think when we talk about hope, we mean really showing the women and children that we serve that they have value.
Man, I love that, because that's hope that is action oriented. It's verb oriented. It's not, hey, it's hope, that's the name of our program. You're actually legitimately boots on the ground giving hope to these ladies, and it just ladies specifically, just to understand that, I don't know if that's a generalization that I should just make, or is it specifically to women in sex trafficking in Akron?
Yeah, so in general, human trafficking doesn't just impact women. It impacts both men, women, boys, and girls. But primarily, our services have catered to and focused on women and children, because that's the need that has been presented. And those are the people that really the doors have been open for us to serve. But we have served males in the past as well.
Awesome.
If I could jump in 1 second, I want to ask Kelly because here's the thing, like there are, I think, different individuals or different organizations that see a need, see a gap, and want to do good and do well, right? We're driven that way through our faith and how we believe in Jesus. And so we want to get out there and it's like, wow, we want to attack. Yeah. And something I learned probably a couple of years ago is that we can do that, but how can we do that while allowing people to gain, if you will, their own dignity back, right? To where it's like nobody's coming in and just giving you, if you will, fish, but we're actually teaching you how to do that, which there's some dignity in that versus just kind of doing it. And it kind of sounds a little bit, as I heard you talk, that you in your guys' programming, you're allowing people to gain some of their own dignity, because I had to think, going through human trafficking, some of that is lost, right? Some of that you get somebody, it's kind of like, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, this is my words, you almost get the shell of the person. So what are some of the within some of the programming, what are some of the intentional things or even stories that you've seen where people have gained back their dignity? And then also too, from a ReHab perspective, how are you guys intentional about helping people to do that?
Sure. I love that question because that's so true. I think that especially with individuals who have experienced the type of trauma that the people that we're working with have experienced, they have lost a lot of their dignity and what we would say is choice. So they've lost the choice. And a lot of times we're giving back their choice. So we're giving them choices to engage with us, choices to be able to tell us what their needs are and how we can best walk alongside of them and come alongside of them and not tell them what they need at each step in their journey. So some practical ways would be, I think about our drop-in center. No one is forced to be there to engage in any type of programming or to receive any of the love that we so desperately want to give, obviously. But when they are there, they're given choice to participate in some of our programming, whether that be a support group, Bible study. We offer Celebrate Recovery, things like that. We are there really building relationship with not only ReHab staff and the women that we serve, but also relationship with the women amongst themselves too. And I think that the dignity is restored not only through choice, but also through the authenticity of the relationship that we're offering is really key, that we are truly there. We are not asking anything of them. There is no exchange of we do this for you, therefore you do this for us. There's no fee or payment in any of ReHab's programming, or length of time that you can be in any of our programs. You can come to the drop-in center forever. You could stay at our safe house and be there for as long as you need to heal. I think those are things that give dignity back to the women and children that we serve, because we're not asking for anything in return. We simply are walking alongside of them, building those relationships.
Awesome.
And hearing that on that line of dignity and restoring that, I love what Coach was saying is that teaching how to fish sort of thing. Like maybe meet me, like, it doesn't have to be very specific stories, because I know that this is it's very confidential, but like, where generally are you meeting women and children at, and then what have been kind of some of the success stories? Like, yes, like we did our job, like we didn't just run a program, we loved people in Akron. That's what we talk about all the time. It's not just about running a program, it's not just doing, it's being. This is who we're called to be. So what does that look like for you?
For sure. Yeah. I think that I could talk about success stories probably at each level of programming. And, the way we measure success is really about, did someone really, were like seeds planted? Did someone receive that love that we were trying to give to them, and see that value in themselves? And, so I think one of the success stories I'll share, which is most recent, with everything going on with COVID, ReHab did not stop during this time. We did not halt our programming in any way. We tangibly went out to the streets with our street outreach, and we've served roughly 11,000 meals thus far during this time. And not only meals, because people needed them and there was that food insecurity during this time, still is, but also were sources of hope to say, I see you, you're important, you matter. We're here for you. What else can we do for you? What are those needs that you have during this time? And then our drop-in center, success story would be then, because of that outreach, we've had several people then come to our drop-in center and say, I felt loved during that encounter with you, during whether that be street outreach or whether that be through strip club ministry. And therefore I'm here because I felt that love, and I want to be a part of whatever's going on here at ReHab. And that's success, is even wanting to engage at that level at our drop-in center. And then I also just think about our minor mentoring program. We don't get to share, just confidentiality wise, we don't share a lot of stories, but I think one thing that we always go back to with our minors that through our mentoring program is that relationship really is like the intervention. Our mentors are constantly being called when our teens are in crisis. In times of crisis, it's ReHab that they're calling. It's their ReHab mentors that they're calling. That's success, that they are reaching out for help. It's success when someone that we've been pouring into for years, which has happened several times at the drop-in center or through minor mentoring. It's success when they enter the safe house, one of our safe houses, for the first time. That's success. It's success when they stay at one of our safe houses and they celebrate a birthday for the very first time, and maybe they've never ever celebrated a birthday before. And that's a beautiful success story. We just celebrated a birthday at our minor safe house, Rebecca's place, recently, where one of our residents turned 17 and never had celebrated a birthday before. And we got to do that for her. So, I mean, those are success stories, and we know that the lasting change is happening because of those encounters and opportunities to show love.
Okay, I want to give a shout out, if I could, Stephanie Johnson. Stephanie Johnson was a sister who reached out to me. Man, it has to be now about 8 months ago, if not a little bit longer. And she had heard me talk somewhere at a meeting, and I brought up the BW question. Do you know what the BW question is, Kelly?
No.
The BW question is the black-white question. Very simple, black-white. And so I've had the chance as being a Black brother to come in to meet with ReHab, to see the awesome work that you do. And I've always felt there's been some type of disconnect, if you will, with inner city Akron, really knowing and understanding what ReHab does and what ReHab is doing. Because sometimes I think and perception is perception, right? Whether, hey, listen, man, even in Christendom, there's perception. We can't run from, we can't escape it. And we know that perception is essentially my truth, but it's not necessarily the truth or the whole truth, right? And so for somebody like me who looks like me, and I'm talking to you, my perception may be, well, Rahab just works with white people, right? There's only white people getting humanly trafficked, right? It's not a black population type of an issue. You know, maybe the issue is something else. Could you tell myself and some of our listeners what's the breakdown demographically as far as some of the people that some of the women that are being trafficked? Because I don't think they're all white, but at the same time, I don't know. So I want to help to paint a picture here that this is just not a, you know, to me, trafficking falls into the lane of drug addiction, mental health. It's like it doesn't discriminate. There isn't just one color, one gender. It's like it's whomever, right? So if you could just help some of our audience and listeners kind of get to know that, because again, I want to be a bridge builder and a bridge connector across not just sectors, but also the colors, cultures, and congregations. Because I think only when we can do that, really, can we as a city, as Greater Akron, really thrive, right? It's when we can break down some of these silos or some of these perceptions, some of these isms. So if you could just lean into that a little bit, take it to where you want to go, but I'm putting it out there.
I'm so glad that you did. Absolutely. So I think this is such an important conversation to have. And I think the best place to start would be to say, absolutely, sex trafficking impacts everyone, every race, every age, every suburban from inner city to higher socioeconomic status. So it impacts everyone. So what you said is absolutely accurate. I think that I also would love to throw a statistic out there that's from Rights for Girls, which is a fantastic organization. They always share the statistic of there's roughly what our best guesstimate is about 40% of trafficking victims that have been identified are women and girls of color. So that's a high percentage. So absolutely, it is impacting women and girls of color in our communities. And, you know, I think to even take it a step back so that people really understand what trafficking is and why it impacts every community is probably the easiest way to go about it. And at ReHab, we kind of explain it like this. So there's 3 ingredients to sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. There's somebody that's vulnerable. So that's a vulnerable individual. And I can talk about what makes someone vulnerable. There's the exploiter, which is that trafficker or someone who is exploiting someone for some type of financial gain. And then the third component is demand. There's someone that is actually wanting to purchase sex and is demanding that they receive that commercial sex act or some type of sex service. So those are the 3 components of sex trafficking. And if those components are present in a community, you're going to have sex trafficking in your community. And what we always try and tell people is they're present in every community. They are present everywhere. Akron is no different. And, you know, I think that we talk a lot about myths of trafficking, and I don't have to go into all of that now, but there's a lot of myths about how trafficking takes place, who it impacts, who it affects. But really it affects anyone that is vulnerable, and the vulnerabilities are, you know, mental health, runaway youth, maybe potentially being involved in the foster care system, someone with substance abuse or drug addiction, someone that has experienced sexual abuse as a child. So there's several vulnerabilities, and that impacts everybody.
Appreciate that a lot. 'Cause I think those discussions are so important. I just think in the society that we live in, you know, it seems like every week that you have a person of color that is dying, whether it's due to police violence or something. And it's like there's so much of this injustice. And I think that us as a body of believers, if we're not leaning in to talk and discuss it and to address it, then sometimes the perception is that we don't care, or that white brothers and sisters who believe the way I believe don't care. And it comes off sometimes as being a little bit dismissive. And I don't think that's always the reality of it. I think sometimes it does make us uncomfortable. It makes us uncomfortable to have the BW conversation, because we all want to believe that, oh man, aren't we past that? Well, it's hard to get past something that you never really address. You know, it just is. And so and that's why I gave a shout out to Stephanie, because she did reach out to me and she says, hey, Kim, this is kind of where we're at. And, you know, we want to shift to where our staff demographic begins to look somewhat resemble the young girls and women that we are helping, essentially. And I just really respected that. I respected her, to use your word, respect her vulnerability in that moment to say, hey, we need to get out more. We need to get our messaging out there. And we would love to meet with other sisters that we can present ourselves to, but also that can help us, even in some of our terminology and our language. And I just really appreciate that. You don't get that a lot. And so the fact that she was open enough to engage with me in that way, I thought was really awesome. And I'm really proud of some of the work that we've done together, and look forward to ongoing things that we'll do together. So just thank you for that, Kelly. I appreciate you leaning into that. You didn't pivot at all. You didn't seem nervous or shaky. You were just like, hey, here's where we're at, you know, and I dig that. So I appreciate it.
Sure. I think it's so important. I think that, you know, we always talk about, like, we know that vulnerable people are more vulnerable during these times too. I think if we ignore, you know, we know that people in minority populations are already vulnerable just because of that. So we can't ignore that. And we also know that it's so valuable to have diversity among staff and volunteers so that we can truly represent and reach out to people of all different races, cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds. So important.
Awesome.
And I love what Coach was saying. It's this thing that sex trafficking doesn't discriminate, and neither should we in serving those that are in that population. Now, real quick, we general, I always say that kind of come to a lot of fighting about sex trafficking. Is this happening in Akron? Is this happening a little bit in Akron? A lot in Akron? Like, I just drive to suburbia. Like, what is this? Give me kind of the intel, if you will, on the ground, because I don't know that I completely understand the magnitude of all of them.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I can speak to that. So I think that, you know, a lot of times maybe in the media or there's like there's on social media, there's viral Facebook posts, things like that go out that really sway people to believe that sex trafficking is somewhere that it's not. So, you know, it's not the person who's going to kidnap someone at Target or, you know, is looking after trying to come get you at Whole Foods, or, you know, things like
fear-driven, like
fear-driven,
kids, you know, like that kind of thing. Like, is that some of the myth?
That's the myth. Is that, you know, it's really what it really looks like. And absolutely it's happening in Akron, just like it's happening everywhere. Is it's happening everywhere from first and foremost online. As we know, technology, sex trafficking happens so easily now because of where we're at with technology, through apps, social media, common websites where people are soliciting sex and purchasing sex. It's happening through the streets and strip clubs, which is why we're out on the streets and in strip clubs. That's where sex trafficking is taking place. Street level prostitution still takes place, and people are being harmed in that way. And we've also got, you know, it takes place in hotels, in residential homes. It takes place, you know, a lot of times we've said in the human trafficking field, in our backyard, which means really it takes place everywhere in every community. So when you are driving down the street, when you see a hotel, or you see maybe a residential community that might be more vulnerable to street level trafficking, when you talk to children that are on their phones 24/7, they are at risk, you know, for being trafficked through predators that take advantage of where we're at with technology. So that's kind of some of the places and spaces that sex trafficking takes place. There's a lot of other venues that labor trafficking takes place as well, and there's crossover there. In Akron, a lot of times, I don't know if you guys have heard the statistic that Ohio is 5th in the nation for sex trafficking. That's a common one that's shared. And a lot of people, that's probably the number one question I'm asked is, why does it take place? Why is Ohio so bad? Like, why is Ohio one of the worst states? And really, we do have a problem with trafficking. Absolutely. It is rampant in our community and everywhere. But the reason why we see such a high call volume to the human trafficking hotline, which is where that statistic comes from, is also because we have a pretty aware community. That means we're calling the hotline when we're seeing trafficking. That means we're making reports, that we actually are noticing people being trafficked and calling and making those reports. And so that actually speaks to us having kind of an educated community. We need to do better. But you don't want to be low on that list, because that means that you're not recognizing it. Because I promise you, it's happening in the state that is 50 on the list. It's happening there. It's just not being recognized and reported yet.
Man. So this thing of like, every time you're driving by a hotel that is in one of those vulnerable places, or just any hotel, is that what I'm hearing is like, literally like sex trafficking. Even though I think there is some levels of education in our area for it, I still think overall culture, it is kind of it's the Taken movie. That's all they can think of, which, it's super dramatic and all those kind of things. But you're saying it happens literally next door without you knowing about it. Okay. So that makes me want to go crawl and put a pillow over my head. That's kind of scary. What kind of response is actually healthy though to knowing this? Like how if I'm listening to this, how can it be like, no, I want to help with that? You mentioned a hotline. Of course, you guys are doing stuff, but kind of common person in Akron, Ohio, and greater Akron, how can they get involved? How can they, hey, I think sex trafficking might be going on. Do I call the police?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, there absolutely is hope. I mean, that is, yes, that's the reality, but there's hope because there's a lot of amazing people that are involved in this work and really trying to help. And that goes from not just professionals, but also churches that we engage with, all the way up to, professionals that are doing this full time. So I would say a couple of things. So one is engage with ReHab, of course, because we are on the ground doing this work. And so we have fantastic volunteer opportunities that people can get involved with. We're unique in the way that we can have volunteers really engage on a one-on-one level with the survivors that we serve. So I mentioned our minor mentoring program. We are always looking for volunteers to be mentors to the youth that we serve. So please reach out to ReHab. You can reach out on our website. You can go to rahab-ministries.org, and there's a volunteer application on there, or you could shoot us a message that just asks what some of those opportunities are. We also have people that engage and volunteer with us at our drop-in center. Also some adult mentoring opportunities. Go out on the streets with us, pray, give food, go out to the clubs with us. So there's a ton of amazing volunteer opportunities that people truly can make a difference by engaging with ReHab in that way.
And just to connect that then, Coach, because one of the big things and what we've absolutely loved, and you guys are just a dear partner of Love Akron in this regard, is we want to start breaking out, because ReHab, I think what Coach was hitting it earlier, is evolving in that those barriers we have up. Is there any specific kinds of people that you actually need volunteering? Like I hear, hey, go to the club. I'm like, that's probably not going to be my job. Like in general, that's not very smart. But maybe speak into that, both Coach and Kelly, of how we've taken efforts to really go after specific people volunteering.
Sure. So I can just talk a little bit. I'm so glad you said that. And then please, I hope that Kemp, you chime in with me, that really there's something for everybody. I think with a lot of times when you said like, maybe your role might not be going into the clubs, maybe we have plenty of opportunities to even engage in like service projects with us as well, you know, and actually like we have a lot of really cool stuff going on at ReHab that you could engage in, you know, fixing up, you know, space at maybe a drop-in or an adult safe house, or being able to, we're developing a speakers bureau, going out and educating the community to be able to recognize signs of trafficking. So we really are, there is something for everybody. So there isn't I wouldn't say there's a specific person that we're looking for, but they definitely have to have a heart for this ministry, for the women and children that we serve, and feel that call, that tug on their heart that this might be an area where they really feel like they can put into action what they feel in their heart, and actually take that step and put some action steps behind it. So I'll let you jump in there, Kev, if you have thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, I think that kind of where we started when I think Stephanie first approached us was, how do we just start to convene opportunities to meet with people to learn more about ReHab. So I love the fact that you guys are getting the Speakers Bureau together, because I think you said a lot of things today that I wasn't aware of. I love how you talked about the ingredients. You talked about, hey, kind of the three things. I think that, you know, when you start looking across the board at, I would say, kind of our three stigma-driven things in our community, mental health, addiction, and human trafficking, those all have stigma attached to it. And so anytime something has stigma attached to it, there's a level of embarrassment. And so everybody wants to suppress and say, no, 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 no. But I know my wife, Stacy, she does a ministry over at First Glance called The Connect, where she's working with teen moms. And so I instantly, as you began to talk about that, I thought about her and somebody being able to come in to speak into those women. Just not to say that they are, but just simply to say, hey, these are some of the ingredients, you know, and not that there's going to be, if you will, a moment there the way they say, oh, man, yeah, that's me. But sometimes just heightening the awareness of people and making them more aware that they say, hey, you know, man, I don't know this for a fact, but I feel kind of what some of the things that were just being said. I think that's just helpful. And so, and Stacy, my wife, shout out to Stacy Boyd, she was a part of some of those meetings to where it was like, hey, I didn't know a lot about ReHab until, you know, Stephanie and Jenna started meeting with us, and they just met like, you know, 4 to 5 different times at Love Akron over lunch, just talking, right? And we talk about this a lot with Love Akron, is like, hey, let's value the conversation a little bit more versus just trying to get to the next thing, versus just trying to jump in and do something. Because what we want to do, we want it to be sustainable. So let's move at a speed of trust.
Yep.
So we talk a lot about that, and we got that from Bishop Johnson. Shout out to Bishop. But that's something that he talks about. And so I think we get so driven in our doing culture to produce, and do, that we forget sometimes that we want whatever we do to be birthed from our being. And sometimes a part of our being, we have to get to know one another's being. And that happens through discussion. That happens through us talking and taking time out to do that very intentionally. And the more we do that, kind of like what you said, Kelly, you will find how your being can be a niche into ReHab or into something else or into this or into that. Like you say, you might not be the one that goes out there, but, you know, hey, I want to check out that mentoring thing, you know, because I feel like I have a lot of life experiences to give that back. Or, yeah, a community service project would be great. Or, hey, maybe I want to just, is there a board opportunity for me to serve? Just to kind of be a fresh eye to some things. So I think all those things are available. I think what hinders us and what draws us back is our, and I said this before when I asked a question a while ago, is our perception, right? Of, oh man, that's not for me. I don't belong there because I don't see anybody that looks like me. And I just want to say, I just want to kibosh that right now. You know, I've been over to the ReHab offices. I love Greg. Greg is my guy. Me and Greg's had some really powerful conversations. And so these things are going to get, I think there's healing that's going to happen. I think, first of all, when we can heal as people, and I can heal from my own hurts, but I can be vulnerable enough to express that, hey, this is something that's going on. So I want to let you know, as a brother or sister in Christ, that, hey, these are some of the isms surrounding this. And so, hey, I want to be a help to try to address it. And I think that's, and I'm going ahead and I'm going to say that's a part of my role, Kelly, is helping some of those discussions and conversations to happen to where, man, Rahab are able to get into the inner city, and maybe some of these inner city churches to say, hey, we just want to identify, man, what this really is. And we want to be a resource for you. We don't need you to have to figure everything out, but we're a resource, just like the mental health organization, just like the drug addiction stuff. Hey, we're coming as a resource when it comes to human trafficking. So those are things that we want to help you guys to do as much as possible, because again, we got to heighten the awareness of what's happening and going on.
Yeah, I love that. Man, I was getting so excited hearing you talk. Is collaborating and connecting with others. So that is my heart. And just hearing you say those things, I'm thinking you add so much value. Like Love Akron and what you guys are doing adds so much value. I mean, we couldn't do it without partner organizations like you, and with the same heart of bringing people together. It really is going to be, it's a collective effort. And I love hearing you say that.
Appreciate that. That's part of my being. So I can't just but say it.
And this is an ongoing conversation. Kelly, we'll definitely have you on here again. This isn't just a one-time, hey, this is who this is. No, this is a relationship, because we want to model that as we're doing that. Real quick, you had a video that you wanted to show, and I want to put that up real quick, and then we'll finish our conversation right after. Now a good time to kind of watch that?
Absolutely. That sounds great. Yep.
Let me bring it up. Now we have that awkward moment. This is like when somebody brings out the projector, except it's not actually a projector.
It's only awkward if you believe it's awkward. I don't think it's awkward at all.
It's awkward the moment that I start talking about it, because I'm an awkward person. I'm just trying to be my being, man. All right, guys, hold on just a second. I'm getting used to my new room up here, because there's air conditioning upstairs, and it's getting hot out. One moment. All right, let's see if you guys are getting this goodness. Grace and mercy. All right, cool. Here we go.
I sit here ready, waiting for the day I fulfill my purpose. I wait for her, the first girl who calls me home, the first girl who comes to heal. As I wait, I imagine all the things that will fill up my space when she comes. On day one, there will be a bag. She won't bring much, some clothes, a few special possessions. She may not unpack right away. She doesn't know me yet. She doesn't trust me yet. After a week or so, she starts to settle. Maybe she will have a journal on the nightstand. They take her to a therapist who encourages her to write her thoughts and feelings. Weeks pass. She starts to relax with me. Her case plan includes art therapy, and she started painting for fun. She asks to hang her painting on my wall above the bed. She is secretly proud of her work. Then one day it happens. She starts to see me as her own. She leaves a sweatshirt on the bed, not put away, not constantly ready to run. The boots she wore to her first equine therapy session sit below my window. I hear her talking to her favorite staff person. She's scared of the horse, but also kind of liked it and wants to go again. And yes, she has a favorite staff person. Progress. The guitar comes next. She asks to bring it up to me. Her room. She wants to play a bit longer by herself. Music therapy really connects with her. I listen as she plucks the strings. Her brow furrows at wrong notes. She tries again. I feel privileged to witness these moments of growth. Then the yoga mat. I knew it would come. I've seen her write about yoga in her journal. It's strange to breathe, relax, and begin to understand her body as her own, to make her own choices with her body. She doesn't remember a time that has been true before now. Months pass. More things come in and out of my four walls. More hints of comfort, more moments of healing. Before I realize how quickly the time has passed, she will be gone again, ready to continue healing in the real world. Then I will be left waiting again. I will wait for the next girl and the next, and one day, years from now, I will have been well loved. I will have many stories to tell and have seen many coats of paint and patches. But today, I wait until that first girl can come.
That is just beautiful, because that's the heart of it. Is it's not one, it's not one and done. But two, it's this ongoing relationship and mentality with Greater Akron, because these are systemic problems. These aren't this isn't just a cultural thing right now. It's going to be for a long time, and by God's grace and by the work that we're getting to do together, we will make a huge difference with that. So Kelly, if anybody wants to get involved, again, where do they go? We got a couple links that we've already thrown up, but would love just to give you that platform to say, hey, we want you, and here's how to get in contact with ReHab.
Yeah, sure. So I think, the easiest way, like I mentioned, would be going to our website, because we have a volunteer button that would link you directly with a staff person that could connect you to an area of our ministry that you'd be interested in. But I will also make sure that our phone number is given. So if anybody wants to call our offices, we do have staff in our offices now. So that's 330-819-3326. If we can throw that in there.
3326.
Yeah. And then believe@rehab-ministries.org is a great email address too, for anybody that's interested in volunteer opportunities. And, that video that was shared was so powerful. And it was we're celebrating 1 year at Rebecca's Place, which is our juvenile safe home for girls who have been sex trafficked. And so there's a lot of great info and opportunities on our website too. And if anybody wants to learn more about what we're doing, and even just more about sex trafficking in general, we have a ton of great resources on our website, podcasts and blogs and things like that to read up on.
Awesome. So make sure to jump on there, guys. Coach, is there anything in kind of conclusion that you'd like to talk about real quick with Miss Kelly?
Just really excited, happy, Kelly, that you are to be on with us today and share your heart, share what you guys are doing. I think we're getting together, I think, with ReHab next Wednesday for a meeting. I don't know if you're a part of that meeting, but come on and be a part of it. Not that you need another meeting to go to, but we're going to be talking about some different initiatives that we're going to lean into. One of those initiatives is the least of these. We know that, as far as our belief, that that's really important to God, is how we tend to the least of these. And so that's something that I know we've been in talks with Greg and Stephanie and even talking to you a little bit today about it. So I hope to see you next Wednesday on that meeting.
That sounds great. I look forward to it.
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you, Kelly. And we always do this thing at the end that we never tell guests about until you're on, which is a great lead into something. All you have to do is say "Love Akron" at the very end, because this is our heart. But well, guys, thanks for joining us here today. And if you don't do anything else today, make sure that you
love Akron.
Love Akron. We love you, ReHab. Thank you for all you are doing, and we look forward to a long partnership.
Yes.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.